Imagine a country on the brink of collapse, its railroads bankrupt, its currency unstable, its industries in disarray. Out of this chaos rose a single man whose fortune, power and influence would become synonymous with American capitalism itself. His name was John Pierpont Morgan, better known as J.P. Morgan. To his admirers, he was a savior who rescued the economy when government seemed powerless. To his critics, he was a titan of monopoly and control, a man who concentrated wealth and power in ways that shook democracy itself. This is the story of how J.P. Morgan financed America. Born in 1837 to a wealthy banker in Connecticut, J.P. Morgan was destined for finance. Educated in Europe, he absorbed the sophistication of London and the banking traditions of Germany before returning to the United States. While frail in health, suffering from chronic skin conditions and seizures, his will was iron. From the start, Morgan was obsessed not with personal luxury, but with order. Order in markets, order in industry, and order in a nation he believed was too chaotic to thrive without powerful men like him at the helm. Morgan began his career in his father's banking firm, but soon made his own mark. By the 1860s, he was financing railroads, the arteries of American growth. He became known for his ability to restructure bankrupt rail lines, turning ruin into profitability. But he wasn't just saving businesses, he was consolidating them, merging competitors to eliminate waste and competition. The Morganization process, as it came to be called, shaped vast sectors of the American economy. Railroads were the internet of the 19th century, the backbone of commerce, communication, and national expansion. Yet they were plagued by speculation, corruption, and destructive rivalries. Morgan stepped in. He brokered peace between warring railroad tycoons, buying shares, reorganizing debt, and imposing discipline. By the end of the century, Morgan controlled thousands of miles of rail track. He had effectively become the unseen hand directing America's most vital infrastructure. Morgan's influence didn't stop at railroads. In 1901, he orchestrated the largest corporate merger in history, the creation of U.S. Steel. By uniting Andrew Carnegie's vast steel empire with other competitors, Morgan formed the first billion-dollar corporation. Steel built America's skyscrapers, bridges, and battleships, and Morgan's deal made him the most powerful financier alive. To his critics, this was monopoly on an unimaginable scale. To Morgan, it was efficiency, strength, and national progress. Morgan's rise coincided with the Gilded Age, a time of enormous wealth gaps when a few men controlled vast fortunes. Rivalries with figures like Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller reflected deeper tensions in America. While Carnegie symbolized the rise of industrial production and Rockefeller dominated oil, Morgan was different. He controlled money itself. Unlike the others, Morgan rarely sought publicity, yet his looming figure, piercing eyes, massive nose, stern presence became a symbol of Wall Street power, admired and feared in equal measure. Perhaps Morgan's most dramatic role came not in building companies, but in saving the economy. In 1907, the US faced a catastrophic financial panic. Banks collapsed, the stock market plunged, and confidence evaporated. The government was weak and unprepared. President Theodore Roosevelt and Treasury Secretary George Cortelyou turned not to Congress but to J.P. Morgan. In his library on Madison Avenue, Morgan summoned the nation's top bankers, locking the doors until they pledged the funds to stabilize the system. His leadership stopped the panic and restored order. At that moment, Morgan was more powerful than the US government itself. But Morgan's dominance also sparked backlash. Critics asked, should one man hold such control over the nation's financial system? The Pujo Committee of Congress investigated the money trust, exposing how Morgan and a few allies effectively ran Wall Street. Out of this scrutiny came reforms, most notably the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913. A central bank designed to ensure that no single individual could again hold Morgan's kind of power over the national economy. Despite his wealth, Morgan was not flamboyant. He collected art, funded libraries, and cultivated culture, amassing one of the world's greatest art collections. He lived with a stern sense of duty and rarely courted public favor. To those who knew him, he was both intimidating and surprisingly soft-spoken. He preferred action to words, discipline to chaos. Yet his health haunted him, and his life was shadowed by ailments that belied his towering influence. J.P. Morgan died in 1913, the same year the Federal Reserve was born. He left behind not just vast wealth, but an indelible mark on the structure of American capitalism. His interventions saved industries, stabilized markets, and even rescued the US Treasury itself. Yet his concentration of power also exposed the dangers of unchecked finance, shaping debates about monopoly, government oversight, and democracy that continue today. In the end, Morgan was neither simply a hero nor a villain. He was a man who embodied the promise and peril of American capitalism. A financier who believed in order, who demanded control, and who, in moments of national crisis, wielded his influence to hold the country together. To understand J.P. Morgan is to understand the birth of modern American finance and how one man, more than any other, financed a nation's rise.